Now, I'll admit my interest in Dungeons & Dragons exists about as much as Disney's creative potential these days, and quite honestly I don't wish to learn anything of it as fantasy games have never really been my thing, but if you wish to incorporate it into a series of movies like Stranger Things, then I'll happily sit down and give it a go.
Oh, I'm definitely interested.
And that's exactly what happened with this. A movie that might not have performed as strong as the studios were hoping for, but still resonated well among viewers.
He's so fluffy, I'm gonna die!
So much so, it seems to have caught their eyes, and despite underwhelming returns, they have confidence this could develop into something bigger. So stated that if a sequel could be produced under a lower budget, they'll see how it goes, and honestly, I wouldn't mind a second helping of this.
Give me what I want. Give me what I want. You know what I want. Give me what I want!
Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves is a genuine delight of a movie, with absurd visuals, wacky and distinct personalities, heavy action, clever structure, and a predictable but compact, detail-oriented tale about found families and friendships that are long-lasting, generated from hardships and are worth more than gold.
You said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
So to give you an idea of what transpires, we begin this one with a recounting of why Edgin and Helga wound up imprisoned as they are, pleading with a council for a pardon, and it's explained that Edgin was a peacekeeper that put away several red wizards over his career, and the cult became rather pissed with this, so retaliated against him by killing his wife, leaving him to raise his infant daughter Kira alone.
Alrighty then.
Until we meet Holger, who understood what rock bottom looked like and moved in with the pair to care for them. And as Kira got older, Edgin wanted to make a better life for her, so moved into the realm of Thieving to live, where alongside a sorcerer named Simon, con artist named Forge, and his silent acquaintance Safina, they began to thrive.
Hello, I like money.
Until their last mission led to Edgin and Holger being captured when Forge told them of a tablet that grants the user an opportunity to resurrect a loved one, which, given his circumstances, was burning his ears at the mention of. However, the place was rigged, but everyone else managed to get away.
Oh, how unfortunate!
And that's where we return to present day, where before being told that their pardon was granted, the duo made a daring escape and returned home, where they discover that Forge has become the lord of the land and approach him over the return of Kira, who's been convinced that her father left her due to his greed, after Edgin never told her why he left in case things went awry. And it's here where things turn for them both, as Forge has the duo pinned by Safina, who's revealed to be a red wizard later on, and demands that they be handed over for the bounty on them, but Safina tries to have them executed, but thanks to Holger they manage to escape. Shortly after this, the duo decide that they need to get into Forge's vault and retrieve the tablet to prove their honesty to Kira and get her back as well. But to do this, they need a group of skilled individuals to break in, so they recruit Simon again, his old flame Doric, a druid, and along the way Zenk, another member of the Harpers, and one of the last survivors of the race, the Phalans. And thanks to Holger and Zenk on their journeys, the group collect a portal staff and helm that will later help Simon unlock the vault from Safina's power. But as the heist seems to be going too well, they're all caught, and instead of direct execution, choose to compete in the reinstituted Hunger Games to give them a bit more time to retrieve the tablet and Kira.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
And managing to escape from the games, find Forge's boat and the tablet, where he was planning to leave due to Safina actually pulling the strings here and aiding Forge to obtain his fortune in exchange for the lives of everyone on the island to become her undead army, as previously done with Zenk's people, the Thayans. And after being convinced to go back and do good on his original orders as a Harper, Edgin turns them around and the battle commences against Safina after the group lures the inhabitants out of the arena with Forge's fortune, using the portal staff to unload it from the sky. Then we conclude with the gang taking down Safina, with Doric given the final blow, and upon initially losing Holger during the battle, Kira provides the deepest moment to this by choosing to use the tablet to resurrect her in place of her mother, as Holger stepped in for her when she was just a baby. And the gang sit happily watching the celebrations across the land as Forge is incarcerated thanks to Zenk, who we see is regaling the Pardon Council of the events of the movie but has denied his request. Now, I'll be honest, I thought that Imagination had pretty much died over the last year or so, but as it turns out, there are still some out there with a shred of ingenuity in them.
Imagination.
And for only the fourth time this year, I'm impressed with what I saw. This movie is a creative endeavour that is based on a rather niche concept of gameplay, but even if you don't understand a lot of the references that points towards in this, you can absolutely still have fun with it. I don't know if this is almost blasphemous to say, but I equate this in ways to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ain't no thing like me except me.
Purely from the position of the ragtag group of naturalistic arseholes archetype that have a few weaknesses but are enhanced by their tortured backgrounds, and take on a big bad in chaotic fashion, concocting plans on the fly and being turned away from or losing everything they ever had that results in them all finding what they need in life from each other. I may be reaching and I don't understand a lot of character archetypes within D&D, but this is what I got the feeling of, just without the oversaturated use of foot-thumping soundtracks.
Turn it back on!
No!
Turn it back on.
Can't keep listening to the same song again and again and again!
The movie does a fantastic job of ultimately doing nothing for over 2/3 of it, with the plot being left behind to explore the world and the various personalities that makes this band of bananas, by getting Edgin and the others to do a lot of busy work that factor into the final act but never plays into the stress of retrieving Kira and the tablet, except for a few mentions, and while this would be a drawback most of the time, I think this worked here, as the idea is you get to experience a live campaign of D&D by watching them become embroiled in random challenges and setbacks, like with a fat dragon, digging up graves for information, and the seemingly random decisions littered throughout this that make sense in the context but feel like a roll of the dice. And the beauty of this is that it allows for time with the characters, and they are what make this movie.
You are correct, sir.
Every individual had a useful skill throughout this, with some being more subtle than others, like Edgin being a bard, who, to my understanding, are traditionally versatile and diverse in skill sets, but here he's just a lowly thief who makes the plans, but throughout is shown to be a source of support, moral guidance and inner strength, constantly there to pick up the team when they're down. And he does get a few licks in against Safina in the final act, but he is the brains of the operation who keeps everyone together and manages to break down the walls with the likes of Doric, who thanks to Forge developed a hatred of humans as he was stripping down her natural environment for his own gain. And you could honestly say that any of the skills these guys possess is more important than the other, but I'd argue that his use in this is the critical role here.
I understood that reference.
And frankly, I'm actively starting to feel bad for Chris Pine at this point, as the guy proves time and time again that he can act, but is tied to some of the lowest performing titles out there, but thanks to the fans, he may have something brewing here. Michelle Rodriguez brought it as Holga, providing an innocence and comical charm I didn't think that she possessed, having only seen her in the Fast franchise, where over time she's become more stoic in her role, but here she fit into that hardened warrior role that displays her affections on her sleeve, whether it be for her ex, for Edgin, or especially for Kira, and throughout this she proved to have incredible chemistry with everyone, and in her final moments her performance was extremely heartfelt, and drawing back to my Guardians comparison, I would say that she's the Drax of the group and rocks it. She's a woman who wants to be loved and is insanely loyal, having left her tribe for a husband that they didn't even approve of. And this goes hand in hand as well with Kira too, as she certainly had the biggest tug on the heartstring moment that showed you don't need to be blood to be family, and the symbolism of the dragonfly landing on Edgin's arm to approve such a moment as a release from his guilt to revive her over Kira's mother honestly brought a tear to my eye.
Ohana means family. Family means nobody
gets left behind
or forgotten.
Justice Smith has never stolen the show for me in anything he's been involved with, even against an animated squirrel, but here the lad works overtime to put Simon over as a credible coward, who has the potential to be a sorcerer and continue his family's legacy, but is blocked by his own insecurity, and it takes being pressed for the diamond to arrive. His skill set is functionally the most impactful next to Doric, as he can wield the portal staff and helm, but strip that away, the crucial element to him is the internal struggle and dismissive attitude that steadily dissolves as the movie progresses, thanks to a renewed sense of interest from Doric and the confidence of his team. And speaking of Doric, there honestly wasn't enough of her in this. Of all the character traits and powers among the slot, she possessed the most dynamic skill set and had some of the better moments of dexterity throughout, with the animations of her animal transformations especially telling of the care put into this, and her escape from Forge's castle, and the final fight against Safina truly letting her flex, are elements I greatly appreciate.
Good job.
Sophia Lillis is certainly an up-and-comer in the world of acting, and I hope to see her break out into more roles down the road, as what I've seen of her so far has done wonders to prove the next generation of actors and actresses have what it takes. She did a decent job in the role here, presenting the stoicism of a character effectively, while informing us that she cares through her actions in an actor's show don't tell. Then lastly, Zenk. He was probably the most likeable of the cast, delivering an easygoing charm that you couldn't help but smile at, and was presented as an example of what Edgin could have been had he not stolen stolen, and thanks to his gentle persistence, he brought him back from the other side as an honourable thief that had returned the riches to the poor in the closing minutes. I would have preferred a little more time with him, or quite honestly, just have him stick around. He proved to be an effective lead and warrior with a noble heart and clicked with the group immediately, and John Page performed well with this one, though his expressions could certainly use some work as they ranged from content to content, and barely changed throughout, though thinking about it that might have been intentional now.
You're a goody little two-shoes. You're a goody little two-shoes, goody little two-shoes.
And as for Forge and the Red Wizard, Hugh Grant firstly was expected as the villain here, as the guy has made a career of being the pretentious arsehole who's always got a better deal for himself at the expense of others. And the ease in which he executes this with Forge was what I hoped for, seeing him on the card. Then the Red Wizard herself was a fascinating concept that I would have appreciated more time with too, but I understand that they were the true antagonist in this and just needed to be defeated, and the motivations were pretty clear cut. Though I find it hilarious that the gang had less hassle taking her down than getting into a magically sealed vault. So to start wrapping up here, what I will say is that incredibly what this movie proves is that you can have a refined, intertwined piece of storytelling that sets up and pays off on details as small as a potato, and doesn't belittle any one person or forget to offer compelling reasons for why you should be invested in them. Everyone had a cathartic end for their respective arcs and was offered an opportunity to flex without detracting from one another. And bizarrely, for however much time we spent with Edgin and Holger, when we received another character, it feels like the movie was structured efficiently enough to allow for each person to get themselves over with the audience. The tone of the movie thankfully finds its footing quickly too, shifting between coordinated levity laced with sarcasm that revolves around suspenseful drama. The emotional gravitas was excellently delivered, getting you to empathise with each character and understand their respective torments and tribulations that they must overcome by the end to unite as an undeniable force.
Now I'm standing. You all happy? We're all standing up now. Bunch of jackasses standing in a circle.
The visuals are respectable for one of this budget that puts both She-Hulk to shame, but could have looked worse and still worked within the context of what it is. The dialogue was focused with a narrative intent even when the actions didn't reflect that, but it stays consistent with itself, even answering the meaning behind the movie's title and never deviates into anything unrelated or bloats itself in too many directions. I couldn't tell if any part of this was overly self-indulgent from the writers or designers, but I can tell you that I had an absolute blast with this, and it offers something from the fantasy genre for modern audiences to get behind that doesn't take up almost a week of your life to get through.
No, he's got a point.
Everyone feels vital, multifaceted, well-crafted, and possesses enough charisma to carry this over to a sequel that I hope we actually receive. So to sum up, if you're looking for a simple time with complex characters, imaginative wonders, and a journey that will get you feeling the feels once Guardians 3 is out the way, then I'd recommend Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. I appreciate you stopping by. If you like what you saw, leave a like down below and subscribe for more like this down the road. And until next time everyone, take care, and I'll catch you later.